Ahoy! The newer devs answered a few questions today about PvP, PvE, and particularly one of my questions as well. A lot of this is about the upcoming season, and before we get into it, I quickly want to let you know that there is a new Twitch drop as well. This Twitch drop is a bunch of new skins from a new Amazon collaboration, and you can get this by watching Twitch streams that are streaming New World. I will be streaming a little bit on my channel over the next weeks, twitch.tv/SLOTH, so you can farm it a little bit there, but it requires a total of 20 hours watched, so I would recommend also watching some other streams in order to make sure that you can get all the rewards in time. Now into the questions, beginning with the PvP side of things. The first question was if we will have more things to use our faction tokens on, and they once again confirmed that the faction shop will be expanded, and they now confirmed this for Season 3. They were asked if there would be further incentives for open world PvP, fort capture and 3v3 in particular. They responded that 3v3 is a very fast way to progress the PvP track, but it lacks direct rewards. So in Season 2 with the new arena map, they're planning to add more direct rewards in the form of chests, I think, that have at least one piece that is similar to the ones from Outpost Rush. They've already discussed this. They also confirmed the territory influence battle updates for Season 3. Black Swan asked about the PvP track reworked and asked what about players with level 200? Are they gonna reset or can they go above PvP track 200 so they have a chance to get the new items as well? This was honestly the most confusing answer to me. They said there would be no reset, but that there will be a ton of best in slot, high level gear early on the track, more umbral shards and more gypsum as well. What I don't really get is why they were praising these rewards without mentioning anything for what's happening to the track 200 players. Because otherwise it's just kind of taunting them, telling them, yeah, there's this very nice gear, but you won't be able to get it. I was hoping they would say something like, yeah, it's just going to be like an aptitude system and you can just continuously get the rewards here. They did say they are not never going to reset the track, just not with Season 2, which makes me think that maybe they are planning to reset it with the expansion. So they were like, okay, it's not going to matter for all that long if they don't get the same gear, because then one season later they're getting it anyways. I'm not sure, I can only guess here as well. This one was by far the most confusing answer to me. They confirmed that on the new arena map, both teams will start on the same level. They will both be starting on the higher level and have this kind of point in the middle that you can meet and clash on and then maybe knock someone down. They were asked if they would ever do anything at all about PvP content. Dave said he's getting that question so much he's just gonna make a separate video about it. And then there was one question that I think they just misunderstood. They were asked if raid groups would be enabled in Outpost Rush, because the person asking would like to be able to see their own team on the map. The interpretation of that question was if you can queue as a raid group for OPR, and they said obviously not, because that would be way too imbalanced if you queue with a 20-man team. But I don't think that was the question. I think the question was if the raid system is active within OPR, so you can just see everyone on the map. So I guess that's a question to ask again next time. But then we also have a bunch of PvE things. Somebody wanted to know if there will be a damage tally for expeditions. And they said they are thinking about it, but it won't be something that would be happening on the fly. In other words, we wouldn't be getting a DPS meter that measures everything during the expedition, because they said that can lead to some problems within the groups. It's also not super on the top of priority for them, it's just something they're thinking about. The next question was why the 10-player trial is temporary. They say it's very thematic to the season, but they could see them in the future utilize the trials in other ways. And if enough players want it, they'll look into keeping the trials in one way or another. I personally think it would be a very good idea to keep the 10-man trials, because any type of extra PvE content, anything more to do for players in the game, is generally always a good idea. I would argue that for most players, though not all, the thematic part of it is very secondary to just having good gameplay. The devs also announced that in Season 2, the Resilient plus Ward role would no longer exist on armor, so you can only get one or the other. There will be exclusive perks. Next up was my question. I asked if the lockdown in First Light could somehow relate to certain members of the Simian family that were mentioned in a previous dev talk. Scott answered,
could it? Yes, it could. Does it and will it? I'm not going to talk about right now, because I'm not talking about the expansion.
Fair enough. He said before that he was not going to talk about any expansion related stuff, so we're going to have to wait. But I will say that Dave's grin for the whole segment was kind of making me think that I'm on the right track, and I'm really hoping for that jungle full of monkeys. And then we had some other more general questions, the first one of which is very interesting for a lot of people, I think. Somebody wanted to know if Transmog tokens are available outside of the Battle Pass. They first mentioned them also being available on the Free Pass, but I would argue that's kind of part of the Battle Pass, even though it doesn't cost money. Additionally, they said that there will likely be a rare chance of finding them in-game, probably in elite chests. They're not 100% locked in on that, but they are thinking of doing that. That is honestly great to hear, though of course that depends on the rarity as well. If it's as rare as some of the most rare furnishing items out there, then it's not going to matter much for most players, but if it's a reasonable amount of rarity, I think that would be really cool. In addition to that, they will also be giving out these tokens via Amazon Prime. This is great to hear because it will finally give the Prime rewards some more value again. Actually, I had another question outside of my first one, which was if Transmog tokens will also be available in future Battle Passes or Season Passes. And they didn't answer that one, unfortunately, but it does seem to me like that would be likely, considering they're adding them to Prime as well, so it's kind of going to be more of a returning thing as far as I can tell. This also goes in line with them saying that there will be a collection log for Transmog, which shows you all of the appearances that you can collect for each piece of gear. Considering this is an absolutely ridiculous amount if you look at all the gear available in New World, I would think that if you would only get very few tokens, that would be very expensive. There wouldn't be much of a point in them adding that particular feature because almost no one would ever even consider completing it at all. If the tokens are consistently available in various ways, then people would be more interested in having a log like that to be able to see how far they've progressed. Somebody wanted to know if there will be more difficult music in the future, and they said yes, a small, super hard music piece is available with the summer event. Another question was if the devs participate in the community on live servers. The devs were not quite sure how to interpret that question. Scott says he doesn't really participate himself, but he reads stuff constantly, and most of the team does that, but they avoid engaging too much because there's, the usual back and forth that would come with that, and they would rather look at the data than drive the conversation themselves, and that's very understandable if you ever looked at what kind of suggestions you get on a daily basis if you're a game dev. It's very strange. You can't really engage with all of it because everyone thinks they have the best idea and it just gets messy. But the other part of how they were trying to interpret the question was if they play the game, and they said yes, they both play the game, and Scott has multiple characters that have 625 gear score. When once again asked about more trophy slots, they said they're looking into it, but they're not locking it into a timeline yet. And they're still looking at shorter term solutions. They're, for example, considering trophies that combine a lot of functionality, so you're required to switch less often, or simply removing the trophy limit. What's notable here is that previously this sounded like it was right around the corner, and now it sounds more like they're still trying out different options. So we'll have to wait and see when it actually comes out. I'm hoping that we at least get it with the expansion. They were asked about our items in the first slide storage, and Scott said we're going to give you all of your stuff back. He said, who knows, maybe in the future there's a different place to store your things in. That said, in the recent post they made about this, they already said all housing related items will return to storage and can be found under Old First Light tab in any storage shed. So you can definitely still access it. I'm not sure why they didn't say that particular part again, but that is probably the most important information to take away. No items will be lost. It will all still be in place and accessible. You're not going to lose storage space either, it seems, unless you had a house in First Light where you just get a refund for that. They gave us a teaser for the next Balance of Power already. If they're doing it like they usually do it, it might come out tomorrow. So whenever it comes out, I will of course update you here. Consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you want to get notified of that. And if you haven't seen the weapon changes for the upcoming season yet, I will link those right here. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, and thank you for watching. Sloth, out.